Yes, guys, and welcome to another episode of TDK Plus. We are here for the instant reaction. I am sorry for the lack of intro. We are still working out some of the technical kinks here as we continue going through this. But wow, what a brilliant match! I think I that was fun for me. That was fun. I think going off the back of what we did against Leeds to come back and play this game. Some interesting performances, and ultimately just another comfortable, in my opinion, win. So for me, very happy. Forder, give me your headline, and it can't be the new beautiful haircut.
Thanks, George. Squad depth is everything. That's my headline for this. It's so nice, George, to have those central progression problems that we've mentioned maybe once or twice on here, and have the ability to change that. You know, change the tactics, change the kind of the style of play, and it's just lovely. 9 points. Oh, just needed it, George.
It looks pretty nice. You look at the table and you have a little gander, and it's 9 points. Looks very good, very comfortable. But you know what? My headline is Arsenal's left wing problem. Is it a problem? Question mark. Because the two players that we've got there, mate, like, for me, Leandro Trossard, man of the match. And then I know he didn't quite go at left wing, but, Martinelli coming on, I thought had a brilliant game in the cameo. And both of these players, when you start to look at some of their output, have been absolutely brilliant this season. Both of them have been really clinical. Both of them have, well, really clinical may be a stretch. It's probably more of a sense of both have been really good with their output. And then Trossard has been able to really have an impact as far as our creative passing because I don't know. Maybe it's something to kind of start there really quickly. I mean, Leandro Trossard for me was, man of the match, absolutely brilliant with his creative passing. Some of those spots that he's trying to find between the lines have been absolutely incredible. And I mean, look, Martinelli, in terms of his goal and assist contributions, have been really brilliant. That run is not easy to keep in line. And, we've been seeing it from him his entire career, that central run in terms of him being able to keep things under control. But these two have been really critical to, I think, our season and being able to step up, especially given that last season, the left wing definitely was a problem area for us.
Yeah, it was really interesting watching how Trossard kind of developed through the game because straight away you're becoming central, seeing Jesus go out onto the left. There was a lot of rotation on our front line, which was really interesting. It was something that we've been crying out for, especially against these teams that like to sit in a low block, like to make it very difficult for us. And it's what we needed. I was calling for it, especially with Martinelli, the amount of running that he did in the last game against Chelsea. Felt we needed some kind of change there and to give him a bit of a rest. But for all of the, I don't want to say the naysayers, but all of the kind of the downturn in form for both Trossard and Martinelli, and all of the talk about possibility of one of them leaving, if not both of them leaving, Martinelli then, staying. He's really stepped up. Trossard getting that extension and him stepping up. I think it's been fantastic. Looking at the GA for this team, we are really sharing the responsibility across the front line. And he was just fantastic. He's one of those players that can turn a game on a knife edge. He's just got that X factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, when you're looking at it, 28 goals and assists from both in all competitions is some serious numbers. And, I think for me, what was really nice to see is even on, the Gyökeres' first goal, the way that Trossard's able to find Havertz in that really slim pocket. And, Havertz has been, I thought, had a really good game. But Trossard was the one that was really, for me, connecting things pretty much from minute 1 to minute 90. And, he's been really good from the touch line as well as inside. Trossard, he's been really important from early passes from those wide areas, but also being able to spot these underlapping runs and really been able to kind of add a level of creativity in terms of our final third passing that I think has been missing a little bit this season. So he had a really, really top match. Really quickly, we'll go to some of your super chats. This is at Simranjit Singh, 5970. Come on, you Gunners. I'll say it again. If anyone missed it last time, man like Victor gonna bang in some crucial goals during the run-in. Moreover, we got the 3 points. Absolutely. Victor Gyökeres, a good little month, not just a game, but a good little month, I would say. Definitely wrapping up. I think what's he on now? Is it 12
He
goals or 13 goals?
Yeah, he's also so since the turn of the year, he's scored 6 goals, so 6 in the last 8. He's got, I think, more goals than anyone in all competitions from the Premier League. And it's really interesting, George, because we talked sometimes, I think the mainstream media have talked about him being a flat track bully, about a player that can only do against the smaller teams. But in all honesty, the 6 goals out of his 8 Premier League goals that have come against promoted sides, that's what we've needed. We've needed someone who's able to pick up those issues against the low blocks. And I think, again, competition really helps. What a difference it's made to have Jesus, Havertz, and Gyökeres all on the pitch at the same time, especially in Marino's absence.
Absolutely. Like having him as a finishing sub in terms of offering
Mm.
something different has been really great. And I think even in terms of the first goal, like that was, a really strong hit. He's off balance. So he does really well to dig it out and get that
It's a
goal.
Gyökeres goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, look, okay, I think Martinelli does really well as far as the carry, as far as the second
Mm.
goal, but to keep up with him, like part of the problem in our counterattacks is we don't have as many people that are willing to be able to keep up with Martinelli, period. Like I think far too often the reason that our counterattacking has been so poor in many areas is not just the efficiency of our pass, but also the number of players that we get in terms of some of those transitions
Yeah.
are really quite few. I mean, Martinelli's really the only one that really pushes forward in those senses. So for Gyökeres to be, with him every step of the way, he's always going to become an option. That's really an easy kind of pass tap in for him to get to do. And, he gets himself in the position to be there. And, it's been one of those things where I think the next month has been really good for him. I hope it continues. And I hope that, again, we can always ask ourselves the impact of Kai as far as being able to take the load of what that starting role might need. And then, Victor coming in as far as doing specific roles, specific things that we need from a specific game, as opposed to just being this all encompassing solution for every game from minute 1 to 90. And, I think that he's just been a lot better than even Gabriel Jesus in the last month as well, who
Mm.
I thought maybe had a little bit of struggling in this match, to be honest with you, to really pivot off people. But generally speaking, really good from Gyökeres today, getting 2 goals, adding to his tally. And like you said, mate, like if he's going to help us kill teams and add goals, I'm not going to sit there and complain at all, at all. This is from at Simple Game Life. This could be the most pivotal moment in the season. 9 points ahead with City needing to win at Anfield. The league is getting closer to the Emirates. I mean, Forder, really quickly for you, like how important is 9 points at this stage, at this moment?
It's massive, George. I think this might be one of the first times since the Invincible run that we've got at this point in the season, at the end of the day, being 9 points advantage, which kind of shows how starving we've been for success, really, in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge. It's a huge, huge win. For me, I felt more. I don't know. I felt more pressure from this game than I did the Chelsea game, and I think
Mm,
it's probably because maybe seeing the last match we played against Sunderland, like the physicality that they show, but um, it was it was a big win. It's a huge win, and it puts the pressure on City now. So we'll see how they get on in their match against Liverpool, but here's hoping.
yeah, look, I think from my perspective, it's a difficult one. I think because when you have a look at this, 9 points, no matter how you slice it, is nothing small or nothing to sniff at, especially when they're going to Anfield. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of people were frustrated with us dropping points 2 weeks ago, and a lot of people wanted us to basically have this gap 2 weeks ago and to see whether or not we could put it out of sight. And there was a lot of, in my opinion, a little bit more commentary about, could this title race have been over in January? And I think that's a really tough thing to ask for anyone in any season. But for us to basically be playing first, I think it suits us a little
Yeah,
bit right now, especially with what this team needs. Um, all in all, it's been a big momentum swing in the last week. I mean, I think beating Chelsea, going through in terms of getting to a final in the Carabao Cup, continuing forward with a 4-0 in the Premier League, and then what we've done here, 3-0 as well, like really, really important. And, we haven't really gone through everybody in the players because there's some other people I want to talk about, but with some strong performances from the squad. It wasn't just one or
Yeah.
two players getting us through. It seemed like the perfect antidote to a Manchester United performance that had everybody's head on Mars, was to essentially show that the team was good again. And to score next, basically 7 goals and, 2 clean sheets is really the response that you need, in addition to basically going through with the Carabao Cup 1-0. So, I mean, this is really positive for me moving forward. This is from at Ben Lempic I 9498. I am struggling with these names, but hopefully they're coming across all right.
You're doing good, mate.
442. 442 moving forward. Bring it back. Look, I have been somebody that has been saying the 442 is something that I anticipate coming back, especially with all the solutions to these mid blocks. Like, I look back, some older heads here, Ford or not, when you're
Thanks,
looking
mate.
at, the 90s and the 2000s, right? And you're looking at these teams that, the Italian teams, how defensive they were and how brilliant they were. The response to me globally was to go 4-4-2 in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. And it's in order to create spaces, it's in order to create connections. For you, do you see the world going a little bit more towards that 4-4-2? Is it in response to everyone becoming so positionally aware? I mean, I don't think now you've got this spectrum of teams that are just very easy, big space winnings. Everyone's really
Yeah.
compact. Everyone understands their position. So, is it a case for the 4-4-2 to have a little bit of a resurgence and a comeback?
It's interesting because I remember Arsene Wenger talking about 4-4-2 out of possession and the benefits
Yeah.
that it kind of causes by the amount of the pitch that you can cover. Essentially, it's the most efficient formation in that respect. I think moving forward, it's a huge step forward, which is so funny because football's cyclical. We come in these cycles. These ideas suddenly come back, and a lot of the time when we talk about new ideas, they're kind of reinventions of the wheel per se. I can't see 4-4-2 coming back as a kind of a prime indicator of, every team follows this strategy and every team kind of sets up in the same direction. But I can see it coming in a lot more in certain stages and certain phases of play. Teams that are chasing a game, I can see that happening. I have a feeling it's a little bit of joined up thinking as well with the types of players that we've been kind of linked with. So the Alvarez type players, and can we play that backboard off one of our players like Havertz with an Alvarez? Can we move to a 4-4-2? I liked Gyökeres with Havertz in this game. I think when Eze came in, we've seen certain respects with Eze playing on the last line as well. So it's definitely an option, George. But how nice is it to see some changes in football, some different ideas again?
Yeah, I really like this lineup. It was one of the few times that I thought there was a real proper frontline balance from Mikel,
Mm,
which I really, really liked. Like the tandem in theory of, a Jesus and a Havertz, we understand. One that goes beyond, one that likes to come deep. But then
yep.
even on the wings, you've got a creative passer and you've got a more touchline winger who's a little bit more of a runner. It was really one of the more balanced front lines that I've seen Mikel put out. So for me, I was really happy to see it. And I hope that we do that a bit more.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the squad going in, I've just found at times that Mikel has imbalanced the front line with maybe too many runners or too many ball to feet players and not quite striking the balance all the time. So that for me was really great. A couple more super chats will go. A lot of Victor Gyökeres love as far as Alexander 1453. I've never criticized Victor Gyökeres. There is no proof. Always rated him. And of course, from at Salah1, Gyökeres had a leap in performances since Kai returned. Thank you for your super chats. And then at Young Lordy, come on, you Gunners. P.S. Cala was honking and Broby was serious. Yeah, look, both of those points I think are completely true. I thought that, Calafiori had a really difficult night.
Yeah.
He's a little bit rusty. I thought I was really clear, a little bit behind the pace, seemed to be giving away needless fouls and just a little bit late to his duels, generally speaking. But Brian Broby pretty much allowed Sunderland to get out for me.
Yeah.
There was look, he's a presence. Like the only reason that we weren't camped in Sunderland's half was because of Brian Broby. And I thought that Saliba did really well in the first 30 minutes and then a little bit tailed off in the match.
Mhm.
Like there were some moments in which he got a little bit shaky, generally speaking. But it was definitely a really, really good performance from Brian Broby. And he's been doing that all season.
Someone that we've been linked to in the past. I think if memory serves me right, before we went to Sunderland, we were looking at him as an option. But I think in the first 10 minutes, there was a little duel between him and Saliba. And I thought,
Yeah.
He can manhandle players. Like, he is just a physical specimen. And it's interesting because you get certain players that are that kind of size and stature but can't use their body in that way.
Yeah.
He understands leverage. He understands how to hold up the ball, how to make sure that he as you say, brings his team back in the game. And he's a huge component. It would have been interesting to see if Xhaka was playing, that outball from Xhaka towards him, how that would have been dealt with. But I think on the whole, we did pretty well against him. But he's always going to be someone that's causing problems.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a handful, and I think generally speaking, we did take care of him. To be
Mm,
honest with you, but he creating himself to be a nuisance and allowing Sunderland to get some good possession. I think in the second half there was a good period in the first 10-15 minutes that it was really a 50-50 possession match, and I thought Broby was
yeah.
critical to being able, as well as Noah Siddiqui, who's also a really little favorite of mine, a little budget player that I think has an ability to really play at a higher level for me. So I like Siddiqui. Those are two players that I thought did really well for Sunderland. Let's skip over to the stats. Of course, 3-0, 1.5 expected goals to a 0.2. Really good shot numbers and really good differences as far as the post shot XG, 5-2. Possession pretty even between the two. And I think, to be honest with the passes, we did dominate the field tilt, which is the most important thing on this channel. And final third entries, of course, eking those out 41-32, with a lot more expected threat from an Arsenal perspective, from 2.8 to 0.4. And look at those zone 14 touches, which is something I always like to look at, from 14 to 5. Really, really nice to see. And I think a step up as far as the second half, really, because I think the first half was a little bit more contested between the two.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see us kind of pull away with it. And I love those shot numbers as far as the spread of where the shots are coming from. And they're not just concentrated to one area. It really was a case of us working the goal from different angles. And that field tilt is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful to see. Forder, quickly, we'll go through like first half, second half, maybe do a little bit of player stuff, and then we'll end on some more super chats. But for you, first half, how are you feeling with it? I think it was one of those where Sunderland came in and they were actually, I thought we started well, but then Sunderland also did well in order to have a little bit of some tidy possession themselves. And it was just one of those really hotly contested matches, I thought, in the first half, us trying to figure each other out a little bit. I don't know if Madueke had the best of games for me. I thought that he did struggle along the right-hand side, so it was difficult for us to get out. But really, we were going to make something through Trossard for me. And Kai Havertz was doing well to pick up pockets and being able to kind of be a +1 in different moments and create space. So there was a little bit of that was going well. But, I think we really only struggled from minute 30 to 40 for like a
Yeah.
10-minute period there. There was a little bit of a wavy period. And then, I think the goal was something that we could really talk about. But give me your thoughts on the first half and maybe talk a little bit about Martin Zubimendi and what you think. Is it normal for somebody to have garnered basically 6 goals where he's only had 4 goals consistently throughout his career and to have adapted so quick to the Premier League?
It's so funny, isn't it? Because we talk about Arteta and his inability to kind of unlock the attack per se and to get the balance right in attack. And we always laud him for his defensive exploits and how he sets up the team. But for him to bring in a player that a lot of people looked at and said, oh, he's going to be the metronome in midfield. He's going to be the player that sits and dictates play. And he's played a completely different role. He's quite often it's him and Rice going forward at the same time, not just one or the other. And he's been a revelation. The only thing I worry about was Zubimendi, and I said this on my podcast last night. I'm not trying to plug it, George. Is that I think he's adapted to the Premier League in terms of performances, but he hasn't adapted to the schedule yet. And that's my only concern with Zubimendi. I called for him to be rested towards the end. It's something where that dynamic between him and Rice is just unbelievable. It's so good. And we've got to make sure that we can maintain that throughout the run-in, especially being in full competition still. But he's just so good at reading the game. He understands pockets of play. He's come up with, headers. He's come up with long shots. He's had some absolute screamers this season. And it was nice to see not just Zubimendi shooting from that area, but I think Declan
Declan.
Rice in about the 20th minute, he had a shot
Almost finished
similar.
a worldie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we've said between the two of us before, that's one of the ways that you can unlock these, these low blocks and just create a little bit of space. I think Trossard did extremely well in that goal as well, just to give him that extra 2 seconds to let that kind of shot go. And the way he kind of crossfades it is just a perfect finish on that.
Oh, it was brilliant. The technique that he gets on that is just absolutely brilliant. And also, again, I want to highlight Trossard. I'm telling you that that pass said, "Shoot."
Yeah, yeah.
That pass is like telling you what to do, and the technique that he gets on that swivel is just absolutely insane. And again, like I said, I think he's only ever scored 4 goals in a season. He's already on 6. I was somebody that really, when we did do the scouted, I kept saying, guys, look at him through a gun-to-gun lens, and I really think that he's
That's
as
a really good comparison.
yeah, and I remember telling people, listen, this guy in the final third has got a different level of spatial understanding. He's going to really be impactful. And, when you have a look at it, really starting to switch, because I think in the beginning part of the season, there was a period in which predominantly Zubimendi was the one that liked to drop between the center backs. And I think recently Rice has taken up that mantle a bit more between the two. I think they both share it in moments, but it's definitely been a moment in which Zubimendi has found himself higher more often, and it's to great effect. And I think that, there's a lot of stuff that I think we haven't explored with Zubimendi in the final third in and around the box, to be honest with you. So, that was really brilliant from Zubimendi, which I thought he needed a good performance, because the last couple ones, there was just a little things where I thought he was a little slow in build up, but really needed that goal, and really nice. And, a nice little shout out to Mikel Merino with the little corner flags celebration. Moving on into the second half, Forder, we kind of pulled away with it, and it wasn't a given, because I thought the first 5-10 minutes we were a little sleepy in terms of just waking up a bit. But other than that, we then started to pick up our own kind of decision making. Again, I thought Leandro Trossard leading the way. I thought that our substitutions gave us energy. Talked a little bit about Gyökeres and Martinelli a little bit earlier on in the podcast, but looking at that second half, mate, like we've done this without Bukayo Saka and without Martin Odegaard, and we're making these results whilst physically rotating. I mean, Calafiori not having a great night, no problem. Pop on Pierre Hincapié, and Bob Junkel. It's one of those where I also thought Eze had a good run. It's just, this guy has so much talent. If he would just demand the ball a little bit more, he would just show it. Like, he's too talented not to. I mean, that one little pickup run that he does from deep to then have a reverse pass to Martinelli, I thought was really nice. And it's just, he's got so much talent. Just demand it. Just have that personality to take yourself on the ball.
Do you think he's double guessing himself? Because there's the indecisiveness just before that, where he had an opportunity to shoot from outside the box. He takes an extra touch and then decides to shoot. Do you think it's a bit of indecisiveness and almost double guessing? Because he's obviously got the talent. It's not, it's not even in question.
This is a guy that I said in a couple podcasts ago is trying to find his identity in this Arsenal team. And I don't know if it's necessarily a confidence thing as much as it is, because to me, like, I look at a player and I can't see him do what he did in that play and then say he doesn't have confidence. It's or he lacks it. It's more, I think he, look, this was a big move for him. It was his dream move. And I do think that sometimes when you build something up in your mind this way, like I've always said, like, as a dude, like, you got to understand, like, you're also one of the best players in the Prem. Like, you got to believe it too. Like, it's brilliant you've come to Arsenal, but also Eze is at Arsenal. Like, it has to be, as opposed to I'm at Arsenal. Like, the messaging is a little bit more in awe about where he is. And I just think that he needs to show a bit more in terms of asking for the ball. Simply, we give him the ball in higher areas and we do that more often. He will produce magic, and he will produce things, and he will create for the team, and he will improve. I mean, every time that he's been given the opportunity, right, to do those things in central areas, he's shown that he's improved the central axis of the team. So I think it's just more about, him having consistency and us making sure that when he is playing, we're not doing this thing where he's dropping out of the block and kind of trying to emulate Martin Odegaard. Like, you're not going to find him being, look, he can do it. It can happen in moments. But if most of his touches are outside of a block and not in the pockets as far as creating an option, then you're gonna struggle to find like major impact, in my opinion. Um, Really small thing for me. I thought David Raya was really proactive in this match. There's a couple of iffy moments as far as some of the claims go, especially with
You
Daniel
read my mind,
Ballard, who
George.
we know is basically all head. And, of course, even Broby, like a very physical team. I mean, Sunderland, I think, came to just, leave a little bit on us a little bit in a sense. But I thought Raya was really proactive in this match. It was really important for us to have that thrust from behind and, getting the
Yep.
ball out really early as far as his distribution went. So I think like the cross claiming wasn't always super strong, but the distribution, the early distribution to get it out quick and up the tempo was really, really important from him. So I really like those things from David Raya as well. Let's go through some of the 11, Forder. I will give you your pick. Who do you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Let's go with Declan Rice, the partner to Zubimendi. Just every time I watch him, I kind of have to remind myself that it's not normal to have that kind of performance in every single aspect of his game every week. Like consistently, he is stopping transitions. He's able to crash the box. He's able to provide underlap today on Trossard. His, the shot from the outside of the box, the technique on that is unbelievable. There's on the 72nd minute, there's a point where he decides to kind of stretch the play vertically, plays a lovely ball over to Victor Gyökeres, who wins a corner from it. And it's something like I look and I remember about 2 years ago saying, we're not playing switch balls. We're not kind of looking for that ball over the top enough. We're not. And he's starting to, I think, really understand how good he is. I know we just talked about Eze and the idea of Eze to Arsenal. I think Declan Rice really understands that, and he's kind of taken that mantle up of, I'm the best midfielder in the Premier League. I'm going to be the best midfielder in the world in all aspects. He's just a delight to watch. We are so lucky to have a player like him. And it is about time he gets the plaudits from everyone, not just Arsenal fans.
He is the best midfielder in the league, hands
Yeah.
down. And it's one of those things that I think it was almost hippie to rate a Declan Rice talent, and then it's slowly transitioned to no, he was always like the best midfielder in the league, and then it was like no, he was always somebody that was gonna lead people to the promised land. And I'm like, no, there was a lot of people that were comparing, and we have some really silly debates about it. But this guy, like he's. I look at him, and it's almost as though football's a little easy for him. And
Yeah.
but as opposed to like, I think at times Saliba has that as well, but he needs to stay interested. Saliba, Declan Rice is just switched on all the time. It doesn't matter what minute, whatever it is. And I just see this guy really rising in terms of demanding more from his teammates, demanding the tempo, keeping to increase. And there's just a little bit of, if you want to win, I'm going to drag you with me. I'm not going to accept, this standard. And, it's just, he is one of one. I've said it before. I think on this channel, we all love Declan Rice so much, but we shouldn't keep it for granted as far as how unique he is, how special he is, how much of there is no one like him in world football in these hours. And, he is going to define this Arsenal's generation of winning things. He really, really is. And this is a guy that just continues to add different things to his bow. I used to always talk about Bukayo Saka having this ability to almost download packages pre-match because he just seemed to just take on and learn things at warp speed. But I think Declan has a bit of that, mate. Like every single season, he adds a bit more. Like, you talk about the set piece threat that he added last year in terms of his delivery and his crossing. We add that this season. I start to look at him even improving a lot of his throw-ins. I look at him improving about his switching. We always knew that he was really complete with his switching, but the decision to up the tempo, the last couple matches, I've seen him do a lot better receiving off the back foot from the center back, as far as being able to turn with pressure, play out first time, leading the build up, not just playing an easy pass that we've almost patterned, like, the coaching thing in which you're setting up the free man on the far side and you're just going to wall pass it. Okay, there's that, but he's now receiving off the back foot to pause, turn, switch, look up, not necessarily just follow a build-up pattern that you practice on the cones all the time and you pass into like the little mini nets, right? And it's just really nice to see. Um, I think this is a special year for him. For I think that this is something that we finally bring. I said it on live, so I'll say it over here. And my hot take was that we do the double on something really serious. And I think that Declan Rice is going to be a major reason for why Arsenal are going to win a major trophy this season. It's going to take him into the World Cup. He's going to go stratospheric. And, you know, there's just the Arsenal fan in me. Please sign the contract with Mikel in the next 6 months before we get something like that. But really quickly, after the Declan Rice loving, because it could be a Declan Rice pod, to be honest with you. But we'll read some of your super chats from at Abraham C9123. Thank you for your super chat. Nothing there, but we appreciate it. Thank you. This is from at Adam Wallace 26. Love the driving run and shot from Havertz. Unlucky. Yeah, I definitely like that from him because I do think he can be shot shy himself, Havertz, at times. And it was really nice. It's one of those responsibility takers, right? Like pick it up and drive forward and then not play like the little reverse pass, but really take it on yourself. And it was really, really good. There was a lot of people doing that in terms of shots outside the box today. I don't know if anybody's got the stats, but we must have had one of our largest or accumulated the largest number of shots outside the box today. Between Havertz, between Zubimendi, between some of the Eze attempts, between the Havertz, you know, I don't know. We must have had at least 6 or 7 shots outside the box. This is a question for you from one of our Patreon members, Nick. Is right wing Martinelli better than left wing Martinelli? What do you think?
No. I'm going to say this. This season, Martinelli is far better than last season's Martinelli. And part of that is from platforming him. I would say it's less about which side he starts on. It's more about where on the pitch he finishes. Getting him into central zones, understanding how to play with him in transition. Like you talked about with Gyökeres, being able to keep up with him. There was one point where David Raya played an amazing, he took the ball, immediately played it out, and it was to Trossard in the first half. Trossard just didn't have enough pace to kind of take it on. And that's the type of play that we need with Martinelli as well. And we're starting to pick that out with Martinelli. And I think he's this season, I said it earlier, but the way that he has addressed the negativity around him, he's a player who's never kind of shied away from it. He's always stepped up to the plate, like defensively and, you know, out of possession. We've said it a million times. He's a manager's dream. And for those people that have kind of looked at him and said, yeah, maybe we move him on, tell me how many wingers do what he does. Because if he continues on this trajectory and starts to get somewhere near where we imagined he would get, he's a fantastic player to have in the squad.
Yeah, he we've had debates here on the podcast about Martinelli, and I think that fundamentally he has definitely stepped up. There's been a little bit more of us being able to facilitate him more inside. I just maintain, you look at Martinelli and, you know, if you're not going to play him in central areas, then I can understand trying to replace it with somebody that you want to have better in wider areas. But fundamentally, I have never agreed that Martinelli being sold is something that I'm a fan of. I look at it this season. He's been bubbling. It has been a consistent season. It hasn't been a consistent month. It has been a consistent season. I mean, for goodness sakes, he's pushing to break the record of Thierry Henry in the Champions League as far as goals go. That's not coincidence. And, you know, when you have a look at it, it's not just been his play in the Champions League, in which you could argue maybe the spaces are a bit bigger and they can kind of facilitate some of those things for him. It's not just that. It's those things that he's doing in the Premier League as far as taking responsibility, not just in those runs, but, you know, that pass that he does make for Gyökeres. It's good. It's really, really nice. And, you know, he hasn't been perfect. There's still been moments that I think that we find him in really good areas that I think he can maybe do a little bit better with his decision making. Those things are all true. But fundamentally, this is a guy that works his absolute socks off, has shown really good cameos both on the right and on the left. And, you know, I add it to the Trossard, and I really start to think like these are two players that had major questions last year and seriously stepped up. And, you know, it's ironic, but there's probably maybe a bit more questions on the right-hand side of the pitch than there are on the left-hand side of the pitch, even though I don't love to do that, but I have to be fair. When you look at it, 28 goals and assists between the two of them in all competitions is serious production. And, the right wing isn't producing that as much.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's reasons for it. But, these are two players, Trossard and Martinelli, but specifically Martinelli for me this season, that has absolutely been asking questions. And for me, has been the most underrated player of Arsenal season.
Ooh, that's a shout. That's a good shout. Like, I think if you were looking at the front line right now, best performing attackers in our team, I would say for me, Trossard is number one.
Yep.
And I think Martinelli's up there. He's not far behind at this point. It's amazing. But how nice is it that this season we're not pointing the finger at one specific player. I think everyone's played a role. And hopefully we go on and we do that specific double that you talked about. Perhaps more, George. But and then I don't think anyone's going to be complaining.
Yeah. I mean, Trossard for me has been the most consistent attacker, and then you can take your bits as far as people coming into form in different moments. As far as that goes, Gyökeres is in a bit of form right now for the last month, and you've looked at Saka had form for me. Like, there's a big Saka conversation that I'd like to have, but of course he's out, so I don't want to dominate that. But yeah, and I think Madueke's had his moments. Eze's had moments. You look at the amount of money that we spent in attack as far as Gyökeres, Eze, and Madueke, and you're looking that they've all had moments, and we're looking for a bit of takeoff as far as production goes from those three. Because I think collectively you're looking at what, 200 million pounds. Am I correct in that? It was what, 70 million on Eze. It was 55 on Gyökeres, 52 on Madueke. So maybe not quite 200, maybe 170.
Shy, but...
So like, it's a lot. And so right now, though, with Kai Havertz back, I think that it's this team has always been winning by committee. It's never been winning by individual. So it suits, by the way, all of those players not to be demanded to be the one. And so I think with them chipping in, we can be a bit more intentional with how we use people. And I just love, for me, this was the first game that I'm like, this was how I wanted Gyökeres to be used. Like, it should not have been from the off. Kai Havertz, let him be the physical backboard. Let him tire it out. Let him be the one that's competing, and then bring on Gyökeres against more tired legs in the second half, and then bang, 2 goals. Like, this, to me, regardless of what I felt like he had as far as some of the skills that were limited, I thought that we weren't using him in the best way. So for me, this is something that I hope that we continue. I hope we continue the frontline balance. I thought that was really important to us, balancing both runners and passers.
Much better.
And it just naturally looked more fluid. And I just don't think it's Mikel saying, okay, guys, let's rotate more in this match. And then the other matches, I don't want you to rotate. It's natural when you've got these combinations as far as runners and passers go, that people naturally, you've got somebody to play the pass and someone to receive the pass. If everybody wants to receive it, then who's going to play it. And then simply put, if everyone's going to receive it, who's going to receive it? It's one of those, right? And it's one of those things that I think, keep it simple, stupid in terms of football terms. Sometimes a coach that we got to remind ourselves a little bit to do that. Forder, before we sign off, let's look forward. I want to preview a little bit of the Anfield. I don't want to get into it. That is a huge game. And I'm going to ask you and just put you on the spot. How many points does it take for you to sit there and say that the title is virtually done?
George, why every time we're on an instant reaction, you always give me a question like this? Let me just have a think, because of the fixture list before we play City. I think we need. I think we need a 6 to 7 point cushion before we play them, regardless. I think if we're at that point in the season, then we would. I don't think there's any qualms about what happens there. As of right now, oh God. See, I think they're probably going to draw. That's my inkling. Oh, George, I don't know. I think I can't believe I'm going to say it. I think 9 points is probably enough right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've always said 10
Oh,
plus.
I hate you.
Yeah. No, don't worry. I won't sit on the fence either. I've always said 10 plus for me. When you get to 10 plus and it's like a four game swing at that point,
Mm,
then I start saying that's significant.
yeah.
The problem is it's so early that it is technically recoverable. You could have unforeseen circumstances in which, major players go down, like a Declan Rice, God forbid, knock, 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 and all those things. But when you start creating 4 game swings, like I'm trying to look back, and maybe somebody in the comments can help me because I'm just trying to think who at this stage in February created a 4 game swing gap, so a 10 plus point gap, and was unable to clinch it at this point in the season. It's something that I'm not too sure if that's been done before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it
Um,
has been.
so yeah, I think 10 plus is kind of my limit. So I really don't think that has ever happened before. Um, uh, but yeah, mate, I look at Anfield and it is just such a major game, and it's major for Liverpool as well. Like they need to
Yeah.
make sure that they're keeping up strength because Manchester United, it's not just a little flash in the pan. Like I really do think that with Villa drawing as well, like this is an opportunity for Liverpool themselves to gain points that they desperately need because they themselves are, I think, in a little bit of a top 4 battle race. So it's
Yep.
kind of it's one of those, right? Um, where the game takes huge importance. And look, I've got questions with this Man City team as far as how they're able to run back to goal. I really do. The way that they defend transitions and the way that they concede transitions are 2 things that I think that has been troubling them all season. They've run the most
Oh,
out of
100%.
like, any Pep team that I've seen. And it's one of those where I will be eagerly watching. So, and I think every Arsenal fan will. But to wrap this up, mate, we go into the next one. I think we've got Brentford, we've got Wigan next.
Yep.
Some nice games to kind of build up again. Build up the goal difference. Probably the last thing that I want to highlight. Like you have a look at it, 7-0 in the last 2 games. For you, is it important to kind of rack up the goal difference at this stage? Is it one of those
I
where
think it might be
a little bit
important more
rich?
for the fans, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I know one of our new members of the family, the TDK Plus family, James B, had said about the win against Chelsea. And then he said, with the League Cup final, and I'm paraphrasing here, so apologies, James, if I get this wrong. And he made the argument that if we win that, that will spur us on. If we lose the final, his belief is that with the timing of the season, he thinks it won't affect us and it might actually spur us on as well in that respect. Kind of, right, now it's time. We haven't won that one. We have to move on. I think the League Cup final is more important for the fans than it is the players. I think for us, we need to go on. We need to, in these games, we need to make statements now for the fans because then we can push this team over the line. Because regardless of how good we are, and we are the best team in the Premier League, we are without a doubt that's the case. We are right at the top of the summit in the Champions League as well. We have got to get this team over the line because it is going to be hard.
Can I ask you a
Yeah.
quick question on this?
Mhm.
Because this might be something a little bit unfair. What do you make of the crowd? We've had some rate my takes on some
Yep.
things. I have my own opinions. Um, I feel the nervousness, and I don't know why. Like, I, I, not that I want to criticize because I think that the crowd really helped in the second half. It's just
Mhm.
that first half, it like from my own perspective, like I'm watching, I'm like I'm annoyed. I'm like, why is everybody nervous? Like we've started the game well, and we've got we've really dominated a lot of our away day fixtures. So like this record that
Yeah.
we've got at the Emirates is not a poor one either. I mean, we've got 2 draws and a loss, and that's it. The rest are
Yeah,
wins.
that's it.
So I'm just, I don't know. Like I just, it's important. Like I think, look, if you're a coach, mate, and like you've got a player that is nervous or whatnot, you try to just breathe pride into them, and you try to say, stand tall. Like I want to make you with your chest out a bit, and I think the players are trying to do it, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't want to sit there because I'm commenting as a sofa fan. and having not been there, but it just, to me, it seems like it's nervousness, and I I don't know why. Like, this team have deserved your trust this
Yeah.
season. Like, to me, and it's one of those things where I just I just feel that we all need to pull together. And you know what? I don't think it's coincidence that Mikel has said it 2 weeks in a row, by the way, in terms of his press conferences. Made a
Yeah.
point again. And I don't think it's because he's like, why are you guys all nervous? And I think it's more of a sense of momentum in these title races and in these kind of ends of the last couple months. You go on runs, even if maybe you're not playing brilliantly, but you go on runs because you have this belief and you can really string things together. I understand all the PTSD comments, but you have a look at it, guys. Like, first by a distance in the Champions League, major wins in the last year against Madrid,
Yep.
Atletico Madrid, Bayern. Um, you're looking at PSG as well. These big performances in the last year. You look at it, this team has been utterly consistent, as far as point totals go in the last 3, 4 seasons in the Premier League. And, yeah, it's time to do the big thing. It's time to do it. But I really think that the Emirates crowd has a major part to play in our last 2 to 3 months, especially when we look at some of the fixtures that we've got left. Like, you look at the away
Yeah,
day stuff
definitely.
that we've already dealt with, and when you look at it, that crowd needs to be on it. And I think Mikel notices. I've noticed in the last couple pressers, he's made a comment on it. And I know it's come out of United, but it continued. And I just thought I I sympathize with it. Like, I see it, I felt it. And then in the second half, to the crowd's credit, like, I really think that they were responsible in the second half for getting us out of our funk in the first
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
15 minutes, right? Like, it goes both ways. And so you had sample for me where I think the nervousness maybe extended a bit in the half, but then afterwards, like, there was a big lift. And look, I think a lot of fans are going to be like, well, give me something to cheer about. But we are at a point in which I think that this team needs every percent possible.
Oh, 100%. Was it team I think it was Team GB that, I'm kind of this is not like a tenuous link, this is actually going somewhere, George. Team GB for cycling were not winning. So what they looked into is incremental gain. So the idea of 1%, get 1% better every single day. So they did very silly things like they looked into mattresses, they looked into the types of pillows that they were using to make sure that even their sleep was improving. And for us, that 1% is the difference. When you are right at the summit of football, when you're at the elite of the elite, the 1% can make a difference, especially in a game where, it's small scoring margins. It's the case that, look at Manchester United, that game, one mistake, suddenly it makes a difference. A low XG shot goes in. That's the difference. We've seen it in the past on multiple occasions, not just Arsenal, in all aspects and all competitions. But I think for me, with the terms of the crowd, I'm a little bit of an elder statesman at this point. I might, as those of you that pay for the Discord and are part of the memberships, they will know me as the Discord Unk. And I've had to go through, over 20 years. I've seen us win it. And I know, even in our best years, that we have not got over the line. I have seen some of the greatest teams in our history not get over that. So I feel that it's partly because of that. It's the slumps that we've had in the Decembers, the Januaries over the last 3 years. I think it's more us than it is the players themselves.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna
once
be our
once
own
we win
worst
that League
enemies.
Cup, yeah, yeah, and once we win that League Cup, and we will win that League Cup, there will be a huge mentality shift in the fans, and I think that will be the difference. People will be expecting, people will be going with the knowledge of now it's time. Now it's time to lead this team to the promised land, essentially.
And that's why I felt it's so important, the Carabao Cup. Like, I've always pushed back where I was like, this team needs they need the arrogance that
Yeah,
brings. And that's the 1% that I think that we haven't been able to have as a club. And also, I mean, like, the no excuses crowd as far as trophies, it is a thing. Like, it
yeah,
is a thing for these players. It has reached a point where I do agree, like, okay, it's time. I believe in all this. I'm really happy about the team and the way that it's performing, but it is time to solidify it with a prize because they do. again, like Declan has been talking about it, in press conferences, as far as like, if you want to make a legacy in the next 4 months of Arsenal, you got to go and do it. And I think it's spot on. And doing what that Carabao Cup trophy would do, especially in the context of who it's against, I think is significant. Is very, very significant, and could really, kill the sales and really start to propel us as far as moving forward. We could do something special this season with it. And, that's the first step. But really, really brilliant game as far as Sunderland goes. Really, really awesome. One really quick one from @Tristan. Thank you for your super chat. Would you swap Norgard for Xhaka next season if Norgard were to leave and Granit was available? How do I say this? Yes, and twice on Sundays. Granit Xhaka is still a player that I think would add more value to the squad if he was able to come and to do it. But I don't know if that's a feasible scenario. But yes, in a heartbeat, I would snap your hand off for those things. Any differences, Forder?
I'm a person that never looks back, George. Always look forward.
Oh.
It's on to the next thing. Out with the old, in with the new. We've got other players. There's other players to start taking up the mantle at Arsenal. There's the next Declan Rice that we'll get, the next Patrick Vieira, the next Emmanuel Petit. They'll come along. So for me, no.
Interesting. Well, that was a really good IR, guys. Thank you so much for joining with us again. We really appreciate you guys joining us here on TDK Plus. Tons of content to come, tons of stuff to come, and continue on throughout the week, of course. And also like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I feel like we never do that enough, so make sure you guys show some love if you do love it. Forder, thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Always a pleasure. Look, we're on a streak at the moment. Every time we're on, it's good times.
Absolutely. No, it's been good. The curse is not over. Now it's just you're my lucky charm now. we've completely changed. So guys, thank you so much. Show some love for Forder's new haircut, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.